Here's a list of the 12 gauge wire that we'll need for this project. You can kind of see it at a high level. The first 12 gauge is we'll need 8 of these 8-inch hot wires. They're the ones in black. And you'll cut each section off in 8 inches, and you'll strip off 3/4 of an inch on one end and make a hook out of it. And on the other end, only strip out about 1/4 of an inch. The hook is going to go around our outlets here. So the hot wire is going to go around the gold end or the copper end. We'll hook them there, and they'll all poke out of the box and hook into the solid state relay right there. So it'll receive electricity through here and deliver the electricity to the outlet there. The next thing we'll need is 3 of these neutral wires. They're 4 inches instead of 8 inches. And we'll again strip off 3/4 inch on either side and make hooks out of them, kind of bend them in the same manner. And what we're going to be doing with these is we're going to be daisy chaining these outlets together from the one silver end to the other silver end, and vice versa. As we have more of these, we'll be daisy chaining them together, this silver end to this silver end, this silver end to this silver end, and all the way down, so that they all can share the same neutral circuit. So we'll need 3 of those. The next thing we'll need, to kind of skip over that, at the very end where we're going to have the current returning back to the city, will be this other 8-inch. So we'll stick this final one back at the beginning of the chain, coming back out of the box so it can complete the circuit. So we'll strip off 3/4 inch on either side and make one of them into a hook. The other one will be kind of nutted together into the outlet returning the electricity. Coming back here, once we've gone into the solid state relay, we need to power the relay. We need to get power from somewhere, and that's where these guys come in. So we'll get 8 of these 4-inch strips. We'll strip off 3/8 of an inch on this side and about 1/2 of an inch on this side. This 3/8 of an inch will be sticking into the relay to turn on and off the power to that particular outlet. And this guy is going to be combined together and it will receive electricity in. Essentially, electricity will flow through this wire up to here, and depending on whether our relay turns it on or off, the electricity will continue on through here. Lastly is this long piece of copper wire. This is our ground wire. And essentially we're going to be daisy chaining them together like we did with the neutrals, but we're doing it in one long piece. So you can see this is 21 inches. We're going to make a bend at 8 inches, make a bend at 12 inches, make a bend at 16 inches, and then make a hook at the end. Essentially what we're going to be doing here is, unlike the neutral wires have 2 screws in each outlet. The ground only has 1, so essentially we'll be putting a loop at each of these ground wires, and at the last one we'll be attaching the hook. The longer end right here will be coming back out of this first ground to our ground coming in from the street. So overall, make sure that you have all these kind of prep before we start making our box. One of the things we're going to need to do for these outlets is we're going to need to break off the tabs. So together as they work today, only need to have power one side to power both items. Because we want to turn each channel individually on and off, they have these tabs between the screws. Now the brass side is the hot side and the common side is the silver side. So because we want to turn on and off, we want to make sure to turn on and off the hot side, we'll want to break off this tab right here on the brass side. So just kind of using needle nose pliers, just grab a hold of this. This is the first time I've done this, and kind of bend it back and forth till we can break off this tab. Once you've broken off the tab, you can see that the connection is broken. And I have the little tab. We want to leave this tab on. Now comes the fun part when we're going to put the box together. Essentially, we're going to prep the outlets and place it into the box, and we're going to get ready to set it into here. Now, in this project, we're going to mount the box actually within the toolbox itself. We're going to cut out a space right here, and the box is going to kind of sit in here with the outlets facing out. Now, the Raspberry Pi is going to sit near the center, and it's going to communicate out to the solid state relay. So we want the main wires to come straight out of this side of the box. So we'll start building our chain of outlets starting from the right going to the left, kind of opposite how I would normally do it. First we'll start off with the hot wires. So essentially, again, the hot wires on this side are the brass. So we'll start off by hooking in two of the 8 inchers, and we'll tighten them down. And feel free, if you think that the hook's not tight enough, to kind of use your needle nose pliers to tighten them up so that they have a good seat. They seat well in that screw. So that's one hot wire. We'll use the other hook and hook the second one, since we have it here. We'll hook that up together. Okay, we got the two hot wires hooked together. Since we're on the end and we want the main wires to come out on this side of the box, I'm going to hook the long neutral wire to the bottom of this one right here, kind of sticking out. Again, on the silver side, not on the copper side, because that's where the electricity will be leaving. We'll just kind of hook it in there so it's nice. And again, you don't want, I'm using this kind of as a crutch. You don't want to tighten it too much. You don't want to over tighten things, but you want to tighten it snug so that they don't move anywhere. You can kind of play around with it, make sure that it's snug. Next, we'll want to use the daisy chain neutral wire, the 4-inch one, and hook that in. We'll just tighten that up here. Okay, and lastly, we'll want to do the ground wire. So we're going to hook that guy in here. So again, we're going to start daisy chaining this ground wire across the 4 outlets. I'll just tighten it up here. Make sure that it's, secure. There we go. So the first one should look similar to this. Again, it depends. If you're on the opposite side, you'll want it to start on the other side and work your way out. But depending on where you want to place your pie, that's the side you want to make sure that's sticking out. So make sure before you start chaining them, that's where you want to go. All right. So again, we're doing this so that in my house, all of my ground holes are down. So we're orienting the outlets so they face that way. So the next one will face the same way. Again, the outlets are going down. And I'm going to kind of cheat here and hook my ground here to get my neutral here. I'll set that right in this outlet and tighten it up a bit. So I've got it here. There we go. Come on. Set that in there. Tighten that up a bit. Whoop. And since we have it here, I'll also add the second bend on the outlet and hook the ground as well. Actually, maybe I'll just bend it first, and then we'll hook it later. So I'm going to bend it so it's the next in the chain. And you can see this small one is kind of making a horseshoe to kind of jump between the outlets. This next bend will need to bend the same way for the ground and hook that into the ground screw. I'll loop that in here. All right, I have it there, so I'll just tighten it up a little bit. Let's make sure it's in there. And I'll tighten that up. and we'll set that up. So we'll continue to do this. We'll add hot wires coming out of each side, and we'll kind of daisy chain them all until we get all 4 of them. The final product should look something like this. You can kind of see the neutral or common wires daisy chained together until you hit the end. All the hot wires are coming out from the hot end. Again, we broke the tabs on each side so that they all control each single one. And the main ground and the main common are kind of come out this end, and the same thing on the bottom of this end. So you see the 4 gang box that we have here. They have punch outs. I've never used these punch outs, so I'm probably going to do this off camera and figure out how to stick these wires through these holes. But all the hot wires are going to come out the top, and because we're trying to get it towards the center where all the power is, we're going to put the neutral and the ground coming out of this side. All the hot wires will hook into the solid state relay that is going to be attached here to the back. So let's see how this goes. Okay, this is where electricity is a little more of an art than a science. So you can see that I have at the top of the box, I have the 8 hot wires coming out, and at the bottom near the center where I'll be sticking the Pi is the common or neutral and the ground. So what we'll need to do, one of the things I didn't show you, I've been using the electric screwdriver to kind of screw in the main pieces, but all these screws here I finished out by a manual hand tightening to make sure that they were tight. When we screw these things in, notice there's a little bit of play. That's because when we start putting the faceplates on, the faceplates will need to shift so that you can fit the faceplates on as they need to. So there's a little bit of play. You can see that the hole up here where the screw is a little is not a circle, so it can allow that type of play. So the next steps would be to cut this out and to mount the solid state relay onto the board, onto the back of the gang plate. Okay, I did this bit a little bit out of order, so hopefully when I put the video together, I'll put it in the right order. But before we stick the outlet boxes into the gang box, we're going to mount the solid state drive onto the back of the gang box before we stick the wires through. Now, you notice at the corners of these, the solid state drive, there are holes here that are machined for about number 4 machined screws. So what we'll do is we'll actually screw those into these pre-drilled holes. I used a 332 bit drill to drill the holes. So essentially I put it down, marked where the holes were, then I drilled the holes through. And we're going to mount the board with these number 4 machined screws. I'm using 3/4 inch 4 screws. I'm also, one thing else is that because you'll notice the back of the board here is a whole bunch of soldered main points, and you don't want this kind of rubbing the back of the board itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of space between the solid state relay by using these sawed-off drywall screws. So essentially, kind of use them as spacers. So essentially, I used found the same number 4 drywall screws, drywall anchors, and I took the anchors and cut them off so that they look like these spacers. So ultimately, what we'll see is I'll put the screw through this one, then through the spacer, then into the board, and hopefully we'll be able to mount it. Okay, so I had a little mix-up. I needed to put this. I think I need to put the same smart solid state relay on first before putting the outlets in. So I unscrewed everything out. I mounted the same smart relay board, and then I put these back on. So essentially, you can see that I created some space with the drywall anchors as spacers. On 2 of these, I used nuts. So the holes were enough to kind of hold it on, but I used number 4 nuts on a couple of these places to secure them. A couple of these The back on this gang box is not very wide, so I didn't have a lot of space on these two, but I used nuts on these two to make sure that the board won't pull off. Now, one of the things that would be a good idea is to make sure each of the, when we start to wire this up so we know which outlet is which number, I'm going to bend the wire for the top wire so I can tell which outlet is attached to which wire before I can hook them up to the board. That I've cut my hole, I'll be able to fit my box inside it.